Hello, this is Alan again on the another of these ECL Enterprise Control Language built-ins. This time process, not often seen in our code base, but it's so similar to iterate, basically iterate with on steroids, that I thought I'd put it in the playlist after iterate itself. So in this rather contrived example, because I want to keep the transform simple, my input is just a series of records with names in them. I've decided I want to keep a tally of all the lengths of all the characters, the total sum of all the characters from all previous records in a current record. So here Anna's had no previous records, so tally of length 0. Nina's obviously had Anna prior to it, so its tally so far is 4, and so on. Before I show you VCL, I thought I'd walk through a PowerPoint presentation of the workings of process. Okay, so it starts off with there's two transforms to the process rather than the one of the iterate. This gives you the finer control that iterate doesn't give you. But, the input to both processes on the left hand side is the first record. Now this is different from iterate, where the first record goes on the right hand side, but if you're Aspergic like me, that really confuses you, infuriates you, but there it is. And the right hand side for both transforms is set up as one of the parameters to the process command itself. You can set those to whatever you like. So let's just run through. So Anna's presented, and it will be presented, so the left and right will be presented to both processes independently. Then the dataset transform, the output from the dataset transform goes into the output, and the output from the row transform goes in as the next write record for the next iteration. And these names, dataset transform and row transform, are used in the ECL reference manual. So that's why I've put the names up there. So let's run that. So there we are, the two transforms have run. This dataset transforms generated the first output record, and the row transforms generated the next the inputs for the next right hand side on the next iteration. In this case, I've just summed the length of Anna with the current tally to get 4. So there we are, that's becoming the next input, and Nina, the second record's being drawn in for the start of the second iteration. So here we are at the state at the start of the second iteration. I'm giving up with the animations now because I've lost the will to live, but here we can see Nina's going to run through the process there. It's going to be given length 4 from the current tally, and the accumulation of the current tally plus the length of Nina is going to be generated by the row transform, which is obviously going to be 8 for the third iteration, and Colin and John come in on the left hand side for the third iteration. Fourth iteration, much the same. We can see these all gradually working up together, and that's the end state, all the output records generated. So I think we can move to the ECL now itself. So this is the ECL that reproduces that PowerPoint presentation. Now starting at the bottom, because that's how you read ECL, because everything has to be defined before you can use it. So you find yourself reading ECL up the page. So here's our process command. First parameter is always the input data set, which in our case is the input as you saw in the PowerPoint presentation. Second parameter is your first input record on the right hand side, and I've just set that up to 0 to begin with. Then you've got the dataset transform defined next, and the last parameter there is, well, there are other parameters, but the last main parameter is the row transform there. And in our transforms, really, I'm just taking the current tally that's been generated by row transform, or the inputs here, and just copying across the left-hand side, brought in the input is just a straight copy out from the output. So the dataset transform, because its output is the actual output of the whole process, that's got to be the same format as the left hand side here. And the row transform, its output format obviously has to be the same format as the input to the right hand side, because it's generating the next right hand side value here. So if we watch that run, submit that. Oh, didn't take too long, good. And that's the output that we saw generated in the PowerPoint side. Right, so what else can I tell you about this? There are skip. Obviously, being a transform, you can have skips involved. It doesn't matter on which transform you put the skip. So for example, here I'm saying I just want to ignore the Isabel record here, and I could put that on either transform to get the same results. So let's just run that with a skip in there. And here, not only is Isabel gone, but the calculation, the tally calculation, has also been adjusted, been ignored as well. I could have put the skip on that one. I won't bother doing that and waste your time, but you'll get exactly the same results if I'd put the skip on the first transform. What else to say about process? One of the annoying things I find is that the transforms effectively are disconnected. They run independently of each other. If I ruled the world, that wouldn't happen, but I don't. So if you have an expensive operation in one of the transforms and you want to use the result of that expensive operation in the other transform, there's no obvious way of transferring information you gleaned in one transform to the other transform. Now there is a workaround for that, which was given to me by Gavin Halliday of the core team, and but I'll show that in a separate video because I think it's just too much to show in one video. I think this is enough for one video. Can't think of anything else to say about process at the moment, and leave it at that. Anyway, all the best. Cheers. Bye.